I'd like to share a letter that I wrote to the Wall Street Journal. They didn't print it, but it was after the passing of Jack Welch, and it was during the time that the Postal Board of Governors was searching for a new Postmaster General. The letter's dated March 3rd, 2020. It's addressed to the editor, Wall Street Journal, 1211 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10036. Dear editor, your March 3rd article regarding Mr. Jack Welch's passing reported that his, quote, success was driven by a hard-nosed strategy to slash less profitable businesses and unproductive employees, end quote. From my view, this is mostly accurate, but more correctly stated, Mr. Welch's test for keeping GE in a business was not profit, but instead its industry position. The business's share of the market was always the focus. In his first years, Mr. Welch shut down, spun off, or sold large sections of the company. He only kept those that were first in their markets or competing for first, the ones in second. By not using the neutron tag in your article, you rightfully do not perpetuate the myth and misunderstanding that earned him a reputation similar to weapons technology that eradicates all life but leaves the structures sound. He eliminated businesses under GE's umbrella that required resources to attain a position of mediocrity. Most jobs that separated from GE's payroll continued in businesses that spun off, while others stayed in divisions and product groups that were sold. My brother-in-law, for example, lived through the effect of the bomb. His part of a defense contracting segment of GE was blown to a place where what they did would get the attention that was not available in an environment where their scale made them invisible against the firsts and seconds. Because of Mr. Welch's thinking, that business wasn't destroyed. It got a new lease on an eminently more prosperous life. Yet with Mr. Welch adopted as the poster boy for expense control, the differently motivated and ambitious leaders were inspired by the neutron image and too often navigated a pathway to the top by executing a horrible plan. This, or should I say, my generation's understanding of business is crystallized in the entreaty, it's all about the bottom line. But it isn't about that. Not for any company, not for any service organization, not for any success. From the notion that the bottom line is all that matters, we've felt a cascade of wrong thinking. From the notion that Wall Street success is the success for all Americans, we elected a government drawn into the voodoo that removed protections placed by our grandparents and parents that ensured preventing a repeat of the 1920s crash. We allowed our elected officials to remove pricing controls that subsequently produced tumbleweeds on Main Street and set a business climate in which strong Darwinian competition, the necessary beating heart of a capitalist economy, was consumed by the kind of predatory giants that historically always fail unless given too big to fail support by both sides of Congress. Again, I emphasize that what was primarily important to Mr. Welch was not profit at all, ever. He scolded America's business decision makers after the crash of 2009. As a business leader, your priorities must be products, customers, and employees, and your profits are a byproduct of doing the right things. His entire catalog of wisdom centers around creating the environment for people and their ideas to succeed. By not focusing on the bottom line as the first priority, Mr. Welch enjoyed greater growth success than anyone in his century. I witnessed firsthand the impact of leaders who misunderstand what Mr. Welch believed. I was told this off-the-record tale from a company head within a huge global conglomerate. He and all the other company heads under the same umbrella were directed to fire employees for a reason as arbitrary as not having as many weeks on board as the person in the next cubicle. Later, I happened to be in a train station where I listened to a new department head ask the two employees she now led why her predecessor was terminated. Nobody told me, she explained. If she was listening to the chairman as he addressed his shareholders that year at the annual meeting, she would understand what I did. She was just cheaper than the guy she replaced. Now, neither of these tales are about anything but the influence of the accounting department. Mr. Welch asked, if you managed a baseball team, would you listen more closely to the team accountant or to the director of player personnel? For much of my life, I've had the privilege to be invited to the chief executive's table as strategy was set. I've been honored to spend important time discussing organizational vision with dozens of leaders, including CEOs who accomplished the remarkable, four-star generals of historic importance, an innovative leader from one president's cabinet, transformational leaders in education, and a few significant agents of change. They all share the same core values that were Mr. Welch's foundation for leading. The mission success and the people who accomplish it are inseparable. It is the context for how I feel about the future leadership at the United States Postal Service, where I now work. For the last 5 years, I've been employed by the U.S. Postal Service. I've seen the tail end of one Postmaster General who believed your tax record, stock certificate, business invoices, and your loved one's cremated remains might just as well be handled by the part-time clerk at the stationery superstore. I enjoyed the full term of another Postmaster General who was a product of the system and clearly a competent defender of its values. I anticipate the announcement of the next. As a business, the Postal Service has an absolute market. It serves every home and every business. As a public trust, it brings American citizens, communities, and businesses its most important services. Among all agencies, independent polling tells us that the United States Postal Service is the government agency that citizens trust most. Who wouldn't want to lead that? Yet, finding the right visionary for the current conditions could be a hard job to fill. What competent executive would take such responsibility for a pay of less than $400,000 per year? Who would care to have a job reporting to the institutional apathy of congressional leadership? What visionary would be attracted to the United States Postal Service's accounting methods against which, from the bottom line perspective, no business has a chance to survive? I felt the kick as the source of my personal income has been used as a political football. From misinformation and incomplete truths shot into Twitterverse, I've witnessed the instant negative impact on the business. Who would want to come and lead in that environment? The spirit I see daily that my peers put into their work deserves someone excellent to follow. The people keeping the United States Postal Service brand promise need a leader to articulate the inspiring vision, to make the changes necessary to effectively compete. In these changing times, the search for a new Postmaster General must be the kind of once-in-a-generation powerhouse who understands what Mr. Welch meant when he said if the rate of change on the outside exceeds the rate of change on the inside, then the end is near. This leader might use the United States Postal Service as a laboratory to show the rest of American business how systematic long-term success is achieved during the dynamics of American life. This leader would take us to an ideal place that inspires the products customers want to be delivered by the blue uniform they trust most. Customers, products, employees. These could all benefit from a leader who might sometimes ask, what would Jack do? Sincerely, Thomas Allen Malm, postal worker. That's not who we hired, ladies and gentlemen. We didn't get that guy. So now we need to try to help him be better. I hope he's paying attention.